Welcome to the VEROSCOPE analysis of Wendi Adelson, where we have been analysing the October trial of Katherine Magbanua. And we're going to be looking at the cross-examination of Wendi today, not in the initial trial, which was found to be a mistrial for Katherine, but in the retrial, which was in May 22. And we're going to be examining what Wendi says in that retrial. Now, what's interesting is Katherine Magbanua has been, just before we carry on, a quick thank you to the trial channel, which if you don't know already, do go and subscribe to that channel as well as VEROSCOPE if you have the time, because the trial channel edits a lot of the footage and takes away the sidebars and the waiting around, makes watching trial footage far more enjoyable. But going back to Wendi, we're going to be examining whether or not she met with Katherine Magbanua. Now, Katherine has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And the father of her children, who was one of the hitmen, has also been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, I believe. And also Charlie, Wendi's sister, the wonderful Charlie Adelson, the dentist with the gun in his scrubs. He was the boyfriend of Katherine Magbanua. So if Wendi met with Katherine, and if Katherine eventually testifies in a trial, if Wendi is arrested and faces a trial, will Katherine testify that she knew of the plot to have her ex-husband murdered by the hitmen? If she does, then there is a possibility under Florida law for Katherine to negotiate some kind of deal, whether that's a better prison or conditions, or whether that is life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. We don't know at this stage. But under Florida law, it is possible for that sort of deal to happen. So Wendi's future may well be arrest and trial. We have yet to see. But let's listen to what she has to say under cross-examination in the retrial of Katherine and see what clues we can get and see what deceptions we can find. If you're new to the VEROSCOPE channel, most days we analyze a case for deception, and slowly but surely we identify all the areas where the witness is lying. And we use statement analysis and forensic linguistic skills to point those areas of deception out. So if you're interested in learning deception detection yourself, do subscribe to the VEROSCOPE channel. And if after watching a dozen or so of the videos, it really becomes an interest or a hobby of yours, and you truly want to learn more about how to detect gaslighting and manipulation and lies, possibly to understand better how that might have happened in your own life in the past, or to ensure that you spot liars in the future, then do consider joining VEROSCOPE as a member as well on the YouTube channel. But let's carry on now and listen to what Wendi has to say for herself.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Adelson, this is all about you, isn't it?
Excuse me?
This is all about you, right?
I was called to be a witness and I'm testifying, so I don't understand the question. Is it a question?
There's about 100 people in this courtroom, right?
There are people in the courtroom.
Possibly thousands watching, right?
I have no idea who's watching.
So already we can tell that she's difficult, obnoxious, is going to use her experience as a lawyer to ask questions like, is this a question? And when we notice somebody as a principle of statement analysis, whenever they question the question, sometimes they're buying cognitive time to think in more detail about how to answer the question. Other times they're just being an obnoxious cow like Wendi is currently.
All because of your failed marriage, right?
I disagree with that.
You disagree that your ex-husband is dead because of your family.
Yes, I disagree.
These jurors are here for weeks doing their civic duty because of your marriage, right?
No.
Katie's going through this ordeal because of that marriage, right?
No.
Dan Markel's parents are going through absolute misery because of your failed marriage. Isn't that right?
No, that's incorrect.
Well, let's talk about the marriage. You and Professor Markel, you met when you were in law school. You told that to Miss Kaplan. And it was a whirlwind romance, right? Right?
It was not a whirlwind romance, no.
It led to a wedding, February 26th of 2006. You had a big wedding in Boca Raton, right?
Did we get married on February 26, 2006? Is that the question? Yes.
In Boca Raton.
In Boca Raton, Florida.
And it wasn't a small wedding, it was a big wedding.
There were many people in attendance.
All right, in this marriage, it led to 2 children, right? Your 2 boys.
Are you asking me if I have 2 boys?
Yes.
Yes.
And Professor Markel, he was a great father, wasn't he?
He was a very good father, yes.
Those boys were his world, right?
As well as his work, yes.
And they adored him too, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Now, this marriage started to fall apart, right?
It did.
But there were problems from the very beginning, weren't there? Right?
Are you asking me, what is the very beginning? The very beginning of when we got married?
Literally at the wedding.
There were problems before we got married.
All right, so at the wedding, and the government asked you about kosher law, right?
About what, I'm sorry?
Keeping kosher.
About keeping kosher, yes.
Right? And your wedding, at your wedding, was the groom's family, the Markel family, and they are more strict than your family and friends about keeping kosher.
They do not keep kosher.
Wasn't that one of the problems in your marriage, that Professor Markel was very insistent about keeping kosher?
About his kosher rules, but those are different than his family's.
So you're saying that it wasn't a problem at the wedding, that there were people from the groom's side of the family that were there that strictly keep kosher, that they were told that it was going to be kosher food, but it actually wasn't?
So there was a misunderstanding about whether the food was going to be kosher style or more in adherence with kosher law. There was a miscommunication about that.
So you had people that strictly...
When a person starts a sentence with the word so, we put in a deceptive marker flag and we would mark the document. We would highlight the word so in blue as a reason why. So words like because or so, any word that is a reason why, we would highlight in blue and mark it as a potential deceptive flag. So individual flags, as those who have been following the VEROSCOPE channel know, mean nothing per se. But when a document has flag after flag, we can begin to say that they are clusters of flags. And then eventually, if we see cluster after cluster, we might determine that there are super clusters of flags, deceptive flags within the statement. And at that point, the statement would be colorful and marked up with all sorts of different highlighters, which you'll learn. And we could determine where the statement is deceptive and how much it is deceptive. So here she says so, partly to buy more thinking time, but also to begin to explain why at the wedding there was kosher style food. I don't know exactly what kosher style is. Doesn't sound very kosher to me.
All right, was that
$150,000.
Half, yes. Of our joint account.
$350,000.
Excuse me, we've gone a little bit too far ahead of
Let's
ourselves.
stay on topic here. When you to your old house at Trescott Drive, right?
I don't know.
I'll try and get back to the correct part.
Started to fall apart, right?
It did.
But there were problems from the very beginning, weren't there? Right?
Are you asking me, what is the very beginning? The very beginning of when we got married?
Literally at the wedding.
There were problems before we got married.
All right, so at the wedding, and the government asked you about kosher law, right?
About what, I'm sorry?
keeping kosher.
About keeping kosher, yes.
Right? And your wedding, at your wedding, was the groom's family, the Markel family, and they are more strict than your family and friends about keeping kosher.
They do not keep kosher.
Wasn't that one of the problems in your marriage, that Professor Markel was very insistent about keeping kosher?
About his kosher rules, but those are different than his family's.
So you're saying that it wasn't a problem at the wedding, that there were people from the groom's side of the family that were there that strictly keep kosher, that they were told that it was going to be kosher food, but it actually wasn't?
So there was a misunderstanding about whether the food was going to be kosher style or more in adherence with kosher law. There was a miscommunication about that.
So you had people that strictly keep kosher eating non-kosher food, which is a big deal.
That actually is not what happened. You had Danny was upset that it was kosher style and not strictly adhering to kosher law. So he was disappointed.
So there's problems right from the beginning.
That was a problem at our wedding, yeah.
I see. So is she the type of character that would deliberately do this because she doesn't agree with kosher food being necessary, and so therefore deliberately doesn't organize? Was this a deliberate act because of her character, because of her arrogance and obnoxious attitude towards other people's feelings? And did Dan suddenly realize the type of lady that he's married to? I can imagine if he didn't know her before, he would start to get to know her extremely well after the marriage. It strikes me as if this was on purpose. What are your thoughts?
Fast forward now to September 10th, 2012. Professor Markel, he's away on a business trip, right?
Yes.
He's in New York City at New York University, right?
I believe so, yes.
And he's doing a presentation.
I don't know what he was doing.
Your husband at the time was in New York to give a presentation. You knew that, right?
I knew he was in New York. I didn't know if he was attending a conference or giving a presentation, but he was in New York for work.
Now, you had not communicated with him for 2 days.
I really don't remember.
You text him at around 2:30 in the afternoon, right? Right before.
Did you notice the tonality and inflection of the "I really don't remember"? There's arrogance, and the obnoxious attitude is seeping out of her. Is it just me, or can you hear this as well? I'd be very interested to know in the comments. I hear it. And I don't believe that she doesn't remember. She says, "I really don't remember," in that sort of "you prove me wrong" attitude way that I've got used to over the years.
He's about to do the presentation.
I really don't remember.
But you do remember dropping the bomb on him, don't you? Telling him that you wanted.
And she has that ever so slight little look on her face. She thinks she's superior to the attorney, who looks fairly young. She has the attitude of he's easy in comparison to the lady attorney who she was just dealing with. There's a little bit of duper's delight on her face.
A divorce.
So I did not drop a bomb on him. We'd been in therapy for several months beforehand where I told him several times I want.
And also start to look out for a microaggression, and start to look out for victim blaming, where she'll be blaming Dan Markel for his own murder.
Divorce.
You say it's not a bomb, but you agree with me that he begged you to reconsider.
He was very upset and yes, wanted me to reconsider, but
in that phone call, he's begging you to reconsider. Please don't leave. Please don't break up our family, right?
He was very upset, yes.
And he was heartbroken. I mean, upset indicates that there was anger. What he was heartbroken, right?
That I decided to divorce him after telling him I would, yes.
Despite being at NYU for a presentation, he rushes home. He gets on the next flight, right?
I honestly don't remember if he got on the next flight, but he did come home quickly.
2:30 he finds out in New York. By 11 p.m. he's walking in the door to your old house at Trescott Drive, right?
I don't know.
But you do know that when he walks in the house what he finds. You know that, right?
Yes, I left him the papers.
You left the divorce papers on the bed, right?
Yes.
Half the furniture was gone.
Half the furniture was not gone.
A good amount of his stuff was gone.
Nothing of his was gone.
The boys' stuff was gone, right?
Some of the boys' things were gone. I'd taken enough so that I had for the boys, but no.
You were gone,
I was gone, yes.
and so were his boys.
Oh, she loved that bit. She absolutely loved that bit. She couldn't help but smile and laugh at that bit. So here we have a man who's come back home and sees the divorce papers on the bed, and she's obviously cleared out the house. But only her stuff and only the boys' stuff, it appears like.
His boys were not gone. He saw them the next day, and they would not have been awake if he's coming home at 11 p.m.
So here we notice the pronoun use, so it's his boys under these circumstances. And we notice her face and her look. She tilts her head quite often and opens her mouth in a pantomime act which she struggles to maintain, and it affects her breathing. I think it's a way in her own mind that where she thinks it makes her look innocent. Something's happening inside her mind, because I've seen her normally, and she doesn't put on the head tilt and the open-mouthed, doe-eyed look, and she struggles to maintain it. And so you'll notice that because of this effort to maintain this facial expression, her breathing is affected. Every now and again she goes back to normal, and you can see the contempt and almost happiness at times when her psychology is reminded of the pain that she's caused Dan and Dan's parents.
Let's stay on topic here. When he walks in the door, the boys are not in the house, right?
Correct.
And you did not tell Professor Markel where you were taking the boys. He may have seen them the next day, but you did not let him know where you were going to be staying with his boys.
With our boys? Yes.
So you agree with me that they're also his?
Okay, so she was happy with the his, and she used the his pronoun. Because the attorney overused it, she then corrected to our boys. So we would note the change of pronoun and the conditions under where his is correct in her mind and our is correct in her mind.
Of course they're his.
And he should be entitled to know where his wife is taking his children.
Absolutely.
That's not all you took.
Shake of the head there.
Excuse me?
You two had a joint check-in.
So did you notice that? There's the microaggression and anger mixed with contempt. She's an ugly individual.
Account at Schwab, right?
We did.
And you went into that account before you dropped the bomb, and you took out half of that account, right?
Correct.
Roughly $350,000.
Half, yes.
$350,000.
I don't remember the amount, but yes.
Yes, you do. You know exactly the
I
amount.
really don't remember the amount, sir.
Is it that insignificant of a sum to you that you don't
I'm not saying
remember?
it's an insignificant sum. I'm saying I can't attest to the amount that was there.
I'm going to tone it down now. You were unhappy in the marriage, right?
That's why I got divorced, yes.
And it happens. Marriages fall apart, right?
Yes.
But you complained constantly about it, didn't you?
So can you see, it's not nerves and stress. She's a witness and she has immunity, I believe. And the trial is for someone that she doesn't care about. The breathing problem is maintaining this ridiculous pantomime facial expression.
No, I don't think I complained constantly.
To anyone that would listen.
No, that's not true.
You agree with me that you complained to the one person that would actually do something about it.
I don't understand what you're asking.
Your big brother, Charles Adelson, you complained to him about how bad Professor...
So when she lies and laughs and buys thinking time, she knows full well what he was asking, but she decides to be obstreperous and laugh and pretend that she doesn't understand, partly as a microaggression technique of hers and partly to buy more thinking time.
Markel was and how much you hated him and didn't want to be in a marriage with him.
I definitely talked to my brother about how unhappy I was in my marriage. If that's the question, then yes. Is that the question?
Yes, that is a question. You talked to your brother, Charles Adelson, about how bad your marriage was.
I did, yes.
Let's talk about it. Government asked you about Charles Adelson. He's an intelligent guy, right?
He is smart.
Yeah. He's both book smart and street smart, right?
I would say so.
You would say that he's a talker.
He does like to talk.
He's got the gift of gab, so to speak.
I wouldn't say he has the gift of gab, but he does talk.
He knows what to say in the moment.
I wouldn't say that's true either.
You would say, though, that he is... Now, you were asked questions about, drug purchasing and stuff like that. You would agree with me that he's also street smart.
I mean, I think he has common sense.
And that he lives life to a certain extent on both sides of the track. During the day, he's doing periodontal work, whatever that is, crowns, root canals, whatever that is. He's doing that during the day. At night, he's out with friends, he's buying drugs. He's living life on both sides of the track.
I don't know about that, but he's out buying drugs.
Now, let's talk for a second about WhatsApp. And as an aside here for a second, the government asked you the question if you used WhatsApp, right? You remember that?
I remember them asking me, yes.
On the day that Professor Markel was killed, you went in for the interview, right?
I talked to the police.
And you also gave them your phone for them to inspect.
Absolutely.
All right. So the determination of what, if any, WhatsApp was being used, they would have from the download they did that day of your phone.
Sure.
Now, would you be surprised to learn that your brother used WhatsApp?
No.
You would agree with me that WhatsApp, and you explained it well, is end-to-end encryption.
Correct.
In your lay opinion, if you can explain to the jurors, just in case they don't know, what that means.
I know that it's something we use at my work because essentially it has the ability to keep things more private. I also know that nothing's actually private and that anyone who wants to can uncode the messages. So that's what we tell people at our work.
So the thought is with WhatsApp, if I use my phone and I call somebody, the call could be listened to. If I text somebody, it's recordable, right?
I think so.
But with WhatsApp, you can send messages or have phone calls where there's no record of it.
I don't think that's true. I think there is still a record of it.
But the belief and the thought, I'll withdraw that question. Your lay understanding, though, is that the footprint that it leaves is much less than that of normal communications.
I think it's different, but I think it still leaves a digital footprint that's easily uncodable.
If you were to send a WhatsApp message to Ms. Kaplan, it would show that a message was sent, but it would be hard to get what the content of the message is.
I don't think that's true.
All right. Let's talk about your brother's jokes now. You don't deny that he joked about hiring a hitman.
Okay, so she's sensitive about WhatsApp. I suspect she's scared that the authorities have her WhatsApps. I don't think she's confident as to their contents. She's not entirely confident, and she is sensitive about it. Let's catch up with the analysis. Let's see where we got to. So, where are we? Pattern 1, pronoun manipulation and psychological distance. Throughout the testimony, Wendi drops the pronoun I in social interruptions, more often than is normal. The defense, this is all about you, isn't it? Excuse me? So here we have the microaggression, potentially buying cognitive time, being obnoxious, but also we notice that there is also a dropped I, and there were plenty of other ways that she could have put herself into the sentence. So when we see a dropped pronoun, psychologically the person removes themselves from the sentence. Remember, in analysis, we place flags but each individual flag may or may not mean anything in itself. So the lesson isn't necessarily that we're proving anything here. The lesson is that we notice that there is a dropped pronoun, and so it's noted. I hope that makes sense. So we're not discovering Columbo-esque, amazing aha moments. We're just noting that there is a dropped pronoun, and in goes the deceptive flag. However, we also note that there is a pattern, and a pattern throughout her testimony. And each at the moments of discomfort or challenged assertions, we will have either dropped pronouns or pronoun change. We also saw some passivity, didn't we? When I was called to be a witness and I'm testifying. Not I came to testify, which would be stronger. We would note forensic linguistically. Or I'm here to testify, which would be more choice orientated. And here I was called to be a witness and I'm testifying. So it's more passive. It removes her agency and choice, positions herself more as a victim rather than an actor, and sets up some degree of innocent person being persecuted, which she, in her pantomime performance physically, uses that doe-eyed, head-tilted, mouth open posture, which affects her breathing. So the visit stopped, not I stopped the visits. There was a misunderstanding, not I misunderstood. So we have a consistent pattern of removing personal responsibility. A deception indicator, which we would label as passive language and agency avoidance. Okay, let's go back to the trial itself.
He did.
You don't deny that he repeated this joke.
He did.
And he made this joke right before a hitman murdered Professor Markel.
I don't know that to be true.
Okay. He made the joke right before, and I'll leave out the hitman part, Professor Markel was killed.
He made the joke the morning that I talked to him.
Can you think of one person in this world that would actually hire two people to go kill Professor Markel other than your family?
No.
Ms. Adelson, please address me and answer the
It
question.
calls for an unbelievable amount of speculation. I mean, I'm responsible for coming up with.
Okay, so she appeals to the judge for an objection there, or appeals to somebody, excuse me, for an objection, potentially using her own legal knowledge. But she can't answer the question, can she? So that's the actual point. She doesn't want to answer the question and can't answer the question. So she uses avoidance tactics. So in goes the deceptive flag.
Once in the other location?
Katie's going through this ordeal because of that marriage.
In fact, that mistake of going back to the beginning brings us almost to the end of today's analysis. Let's catch up with where we got to, and then we'll do part 2 tomorrow. So do you remember with the R boys, the exchange, the defense was asking about the September 2012 separation. This is a transcript error. It's meant to be the 22 trial, and she mentions our boys versus his boys. Defense uses his boys. Wendi corrects to our boys. But just moments before, she used in her own language, his boys. So we've got a sensitivity to possessive pronoun usage. In 2019, after Dan's death, she mentally frames them as our boys. As a principle, possessive pronouns reveal psychological ownership and relationship perception. Changes in possessive pronouns usage show what matters most to the speaker about the possession and the relationship. So we notice the sensitivity in the pronouns, and we would begin to question why. And if we extrapolate this out, knowing other knowledge about the case, the motive for the murder is related to the boys. And so when we analyze the entire trials and her statements, we can begin to see where the motive is. That makes more sense when we've completed the analysis and we have all the deception markers noted. It becomes quite a large, as you can imagine, it becomes quite a large job. The use of computing can be extremely useful to identify these sorts of patterns and identify motives, which, not in this case, because this case is fairly cut and dried as to what the motives were, but in some cases, by using this pattern recognition, we can start to identify what isn't so obvious at first. So pattern 2, the unnecessary language signaling sensitivity. She says, I have been nothing but helpful since this started. So in a principle of statement analysis, unnecessary language is doubly important. So the phrase nothing but is both emphatic and unnecessary. Do you see? A simple I've been helpful would suffice. So we see it's unnecessary language, we note it, and in goes the deceptive flag. Nothing but helpful. This isn't needed. It's part of her attitude, but it's also unnecessary language. It's an absolute claim with no exceptions allowed. I've been nothing but helpful since this started. Do you see? It's kind of like, it's really annoying type of language. It's the sort of person that just gets your back up. It's overemphasis. She doesn't need to emphasize this so strongly. It's also because deep down, when we look at, see, when people get your back up and when people are just like obnoxious and annoying, it's normally because deep down they've got a problem. And with Wendi in this instance, it's because she knows her helpfulness is A, not true at all and therefore questionable, and deceitful. And so we get the aggression, which she exhibits through microaggression and facial expressions of aggression, hidden with a wolf smile. If we freeze frame some of her smiles, it's a body language grin showing the teeth. It's not a genuine, loving smile. When we see overemphasis, very often the opposite is true. She says, I spoke to the police for 6 hours without anyone present. I signed over my cell phone, my car, my house, everything, my computer. So we get a whole list of just how helpful she is, but in reality, she scarpered out of that interview as soon as she could and effectively didn't contact them ever again. Nobody asked how long, so it's unnecessary information. She wants credit for helping the police in her husband's murder. Can you see how not only is it unnecessary, but mentally wanting the credit for this exhaustive help that she gave without anyone present, effectively meaning legal representation, which in her psychology she feels she needs. This is a critical addition. Nobody asked if she had a lawyer. She volunteers this information. This is the most important unnecessary addition. She needs the jury to think that she was fully cooperative. But the need to emphasize reveals she was calculating every word even then. And if you look back on the VEROSCOPE analysis of her police interview, and in particular the VEROSCOPE analysis of the call that she made to Donna in that police, that's her mother, in that police interview, it's extremely revealing. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's VEROSCOPE analysis, and I look forward to speak with you in the comments. Do consider joining the channel if that's of interest. Ideally, watch a dozen or so VEROSCOPE videos first. Make sure that it truly is an interest of yours and that you genuinely want to learn the skill. And then if so, see you inside the membership area. Otherwise, speak to you in the comments. Okay, enjoy the evening.